Welcome back to the Crooked River and Eastern Railroad and another Crooked River production. So today I'm going to install a decoder into a Kato GP35. Nice little unit. Tested it out already, runs good. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the shell. It was a little rough to do, but there's a couple pinch tabs. You got to pinch them in to break them free. And the shell just pops off like so. Okay. Take this weight off, take the board off that's underneath, and we'll be able to pop the motor out and we'll go from there. So the weight we're going to have to leave out because that's where the decoder is going to go, and then replace the other board as well. So stand by, we'll get that figured out here. I just wanted to show you. So instead of screws, there's these little pins here. I have to take a tiny screwdriver, kind of get in there and pry it up, and then you take a little needle nose pliers, and then you can pop that out pretty easily. This way that is, rather than a screw. And then you can pull the coupler box out. I'm going to replace those with screws just because that's just the way I think is better. But it does come with a nice KD coupler, number 5 it looks like. So we'll go ahead, we'll put that off to the side so we don't lose it. Then I'm going to do the back over here too. Good, and wiggle that out of there. Keep the pin on. I'm going to keep it all together now. I just put in a little plastic cup, put all my pieces, parts, you know. So that being said, we can turn this back over. That will allow us to remove the walkway. Okay, so it's not in the way. It'll be for painting purposes too. We can remove it. So you have 2 screws here on the top. So there's a weight. Unfortunately, you're going to have to lose the weight. You will not be able to fit the decoder inside with that weight. Again, I'm going to save the screws and the weight because you never know what you could use them. You never know when you could use them. It just comes right off. There you go. So your truck wires are just going to pull right off these little rods. A little bit stuck, something you might have to use pliers or a screwdriver. You just don't want to pull on the truck end of it. You want to pull on this end. So I'm going to remove all that. Yeah. So this is just your lighting board and your motor function and all that stuff. That's all got to come off of there. So just like the other, you're going to take these screws out, remove this board. Now these screws I'm going to reuse for the decoder board. So I'm going to just go ahead and remove these. So I'll be careful here with these. Where's my pliers? Okay. So there's that. This is just a plastic board, nothing fancy. Alright, so I'm going to show you in this next step how to remove the motor. I'm going to show you how I run and attach the gray wire from the bottom, the negative up to the top, so I can reach the board. Attach the orange wire for the positive of the motor. We'll go ahead, we'll tin the wires for the trucks. And as we go, I'll show you what's happening. And I'll show you how I mount the speaker. So stand by, I'll turn the camera and we'll go from here. If you'll notice here, these tabs, here and here, okay? those I'm gonna cut down some. So they're more or less flush, just a hair above the motor. The motor is, you want to insulate that to be on the safe side. Maybe a little piece of double-sided tape is what I did on my other one. But I did leave these. You want to try to cut them as level as possible and leave them just a little bit higher than the motor top. Okay. And all I used was basically a pair of these snips for like sprues. This is just plastic, so it cuts pretty easy. You could use an X-Acto or whatever. Be careful. So you do have 2 screws here on the bottom. I will unscrew those and show you how the motor just pops out of there. Pretty easy. So I'll flip this back over. That comes right out. Now this will turn on you. That's why I say keep in mind this is the top of the motor and the front. But see how this will keep it up. Let me back out. This is what sits down in there. Okay, and this is all plastic here, so it insulates the motor. So unlike like your blue boxes and a lot of your other locomotives, when you convert them over to DCC, this is basically insulated already, so you don't have to mess with that. You can still put something on if you want, if you really want to, but you don't need to. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this motor figured out. All right, so we're gonna cut the lower mount little brass piece here. I'm going to cut it about like in this general area. See right there at the bend. I'm going to take and go ahead also and drill my little holes up through. So we're going to go, let's go right here. I'm going to just start straight, up and down, perpendicular, until we get a little bite. And let's turn it. Little bracket there, what do you want to call it? Little space. So I have my orange wire and my gray wire. Okay, I'm going to take this gray wire, I'm going to feed it up through the hole we just made. Should slide right through, see that? So now it's out of the way. Cut these little clips off of the truck wires. I can strip those, tin those. All right, so let's get these wires all tinned up. Blob of solder here. Okay, there you go. Nice and neat. Nice and neat. Out of the way, put that down there. Alright, so we're gonna get this other one cut. Dab of flux. A little dab of solder. And the orange wire at the top of the motor. There you go. All right, so let's go. I'm gonna cut these towers down. Remember I was talking about that before. I'm gonna go ahead and use this little piece of plastic here just to use it as a guide. All right, so I need to pay attention here what I'm doing. It'll get me just enough over, so when I put my board down, it'll give me that little space there that I'm looking for. See? Same thing over here. Just about enough. Like I said, I'll do the double-sided tape too, just to be on the safe side. Put these screws in there, because that's just going to hold the board down for right now until I put the board on. Alright guys, so there you go. That's how I get these wires up through. Cut that down for the board to fit. So that'll allow the board to fit on there real nice. For now, set this model aside and go back to looking at this model. So one thing I changed from what I said earlier was, since I cut this out, this weight out, in order to fit the speakers in, instead of mounting the speaker on top of the housing, I was able to add a couple pieces of styrene and mount it there. And that's glued on there. So, and you know, it still allows the speaker to be encased. It will not move, it won't go anywhere. It should be no issue. So, that's the only change I made. So I just need to work on finishing the wiring of lights and that kind of stuff. But for now, that's what we're gonna do. That's where we're at. All right, guys, so I'm gonna backtrack a bit, and I kind of got ahead of myself. I showed you how to do the wiring on the motor and everything. I did not show you the frame with everything out and where I cut it, cut the weight out for the speaker to fit. So stand by and we'll show you that. All right, guys, so I have my frame all separated here. Remove the motor. Just like most other models, to get the truck out, you have to take the cap off here from the worm gear. It goes up through. Okay, so I did that for the front and back. So that's all been removed. So in order to get everything I want to fit in here to fit, decoder, speakers, and the keep alive. So I'm going to cut some of this weight here. You see I marked it. I'm just going to cut some of that out so it's flush there, and then I'll cut it here because at this line, it's hard to see. That line, horizontal line, is where the top of the truck housing or the worm gear housing is level with that. So that is going to be where I'm going to mount this speaker. It's just tight in there because this needs to come out. The Keep Alive will sit flat on top of the motor and on top of this board. That's the plan. I'm gonna get that done and I'll be back. Okay, so the shell is done. Time to put the motor and the trucks back in. I think the best way for me to do this is to take the worm gear out. Careful not to lose any of the nuts and washers off of that. Let's put that in there. Get the motor dropped in their proper slots. Same thing with the back side. down in. I had to extend these wires a little bit to match the new board. Oh, careful. All right. Worm gear back in the slot where it goes. Worm gear is in. Make sure that sits all the way in there. Here it kind of snapped. The cap will go over top of that. And here it snapped down and it all turns fine. He's in place. Let's do the same thing here on the front side. And just repeating everything on this end. On the other end, there you go. The truck's back in, nice and free moving. Okay, so we have these are our truck wires. One on the end here, the other one on the end there. Those will hook up right here and right there. I'm going to put a little dab of solder on each one of these tabs. Have a good connection. All right, let me get the other side and I'll come right back. Okay guys, so I forgot to start the camera to show me hooking up the speaker wires. Very simple, 2 wires on the board. It says S1 or S plus, S minus. Just solder to those tabs. In this part of the video you do see the speaker on the tower, the truck tower. It was pretty free moving. I just was worried that it would eventually cause an issue with turn radius and that once the shell and everything was on. So I had the room, since I cut the frame out as you saw, to mount it right on the frame there. I had to add a couple of little pieces of plastic, styrene to give it a teeny bit of height because I cut the weight a little too short. But it's all good and everything's fine. So sorry about that. Let's continue. Okay, so as you can see, I got the speaker wires in. Rear trucks over there and front trucks over here, all wired in. So what I'll do now is underneath here we have the mounts, the screw mounts for the motor. That's all nice and tight and snug, nothing moving that's not supposed to. Your motor mounts, positive and your negative wire. So the gray one is completely out of the way, nothing's going to accidentally get snagged or trimmed. And the orange one is on, obviously on top of the motor. There you go. There you go with those. It's very nice. I did put a little bit of double-sided tape underneath, just to make sure there was no contact between the motor and the board on the top of the motor. Underneath is all plastic. There's no issues there in the well here. So let's get the Soundtraxx current keeper here. We'll get that set in there. So with this model, it does come with the plug. You just plug it right in. Okay, so with your current keeper, there's only one way for it to go in. Yep. Just push it all the way in, nice and snug. So what I'm going to do is, I believe I'm just going to mount this right here. So let's go ahead and take this over to the layout. We'll run it, make sure everything's working before we go any further. Okay, so let's go ahead and put her on the track and see how we did. We have sound. Got a blue light lit there. Let's see if we have bell, horn. Let's see if she'll move. Speed step 1. Very nice. Reverse. Obviously, guys, I have not played with any CVs or anything yet, but she's running really smooth. Okay, guys, so there you have it. It's a basic installation of a Soundtraxx Tsunami 2 PNP 8. It has a Soundtraxx current keeper and 2 Minikube speakers. Pretty simple to do. I do want to test one thing. Let's pull this off the track and see if this current keeper is actually working. 1, 2. It was a good 45, 50 seconds, and that was me just kind of counting in my head, so that's not bad at all. I don't think you could have the dirtiest of track and probably still be okay with that. Not too bad. It's gonna look real nice, guys. Still got a lot of work to do on it, but sounds good, moves good.